Hello, hello. Hello, hello. All right, so what I'd like to do is talk about the little exercises we've been doing thus far and how to keep the fingers in line, and then the next step of what we're going to do. Don't want to be too loud. So, what we have thus far, I hope you can see my fingers here. What we try to do is tell ourselves where the notes are in relativity. I understand that like playing straight on seems kind of weird and doing these stretches seems weird. So the one thing I want to do is point out this. If you ever do a stretch that has one finger and we skip a fret and then it goes to another finger, the only time you're going to be doing that is if you're actually moving around the fretboard. You generally want to go from one finger to another finger, and that is going to be your one finger to your third finger and then your two finger to your forefinger. Meaning the reason why we're practicing playing a low C with our first finger and then playing a high C with our third finger, it gives us a footing, and our brain always jumps back to these are the fingers we're going to use. Since you've got bigger hands than I do, it also can help you do the C here, and then your three finger plays both the fifth fret and the fifth fret on both the G and the D string, giving you both those notes, the C note and the G note. So when you have that, it gives you your 5 and your root. C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 5, 1. So when we've got this, you can use two fingers, completely fine, or one finger. It just depends on your preference. I use a combination of the both. When we go from the C major, which initially we're not playing the major third, but it's there in our mind because we know C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step from here, and this is the same note as that note is. We're just not doing our scales up, we're doing them linear, if you will. So C major goes to D major, D minor goes to E minor. If I were to play the actual thirds of this, I would have like a C major, I would incorporate the D minor. That tone right there helps to distinguish when we get that F in there. That makes that major a minor. And it's the same way we watch the C going to the C minor. So a good practice that we'll talk about next week is hearing the difference between major and minor. C major, C minor. D major, D minor. E major, E minor. F major, F minor. G major, so on and so forth. We'll go through this, and all it is the flattening of that one note, the median, or the third. So we could actually get to a point where we could see this as being both major and minor because we're playing 5 chords. 5 chords are power chords, and power chords mean we don't distinguish between major and minor. So when we pluck this low C and then when we pluck this high C, we can play another low C and then another high C utilizing the 2 and the 4 fingers. Does not matter how you do these. The way we talked about them today was 1 finger, 3 finger, 1 finger, 3 finger, 2 finger, 4 finger, 2 finger, 4 finger, 1 finger, 3 finger, 1 finger, 3 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger, 2 finger, 1 finger, 3 finger, 1 finger, 2 finger, 4 finger, 2 finger, 4 finger, 1 finger, third finger. The takeaway from this, even if you never switch your fingers, is that these notes you playing are called legato, L-E-G-A-T-O, which means the note when you play it hovers over the top and it doesn't stop. There isn't a cutoff, right? Boom, boom, boom. Now the difference is these, staccato. Hear how the note does not persist? There isn't time for it to decay because what you're doing is you're quite literally, let's see if I can do this right. You're plucking the note that your finger's playing, and then you're ever so slightly lifting your finger up so it's not off the fretboard, but it's ever so slightly touching the fretboard, thusly to mute. This concept has a lot to do with another idea that we're going to be doing later, which has something along the lines of like a pop and then a where we pluck it over here, hold down a note, and then hammer onto another, and then we hold that string, so it sounds like, yeah? So these concepts, they all kind of layer it. They pancake, if you will. So You know, honestly, it was really cool to look at this through the eyes of doing it for the first time and seeing the instruction and how it rolls out. I wish I would have had these little caveats to help me perform and make a little bit more technique before I started playing out and, like, you know, thinking I knew everything about blah, blah, blah. Where it's at now, these key rudiments will help you navigate your fretboard. That C, by getting rid of those two other notes, you can add those in whenever you want now. C, C, E, E, G, G, A, G. What we're doing and what you just saw is the C that you know, the E that you know, and the G that we talked about. Now when we play with just these three notes, we can do eighth note, 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 eighth note. See how I incorporated the A and the C in there just by throwing it in later? So what happens is, the previous example I did a boom boom boom. That's nothing more than our half-step diatonic spider exercises, just a little bit of fill. So what we do together is we learn what notes work and what notes do not work. And believe me, you're gonna hit more wrong notes than you will right notes. But after a period of time, you end up hitting the right notes and you omit the wrong notes, which is the best part of realizing, oh, I know how to play an instrument now, which is awesome. So what we do is we talk about open A, B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, F or E sharp, which I'll never call it that, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, and so on and so forth. So what happens is, if we get all the way up to here at the 12th fret, it should be the same as our chord down there. So what happens is we turn modal playing with chords and scales into a chord thing with a lot of other things. Here's where all this is leading to. If I was doing a groove in the key of A, things I'll just do it and noodling, they come out of this idea. If you know where A major is, right here, and you could go from a G to an A, play an A with its third and its root, and then play what we would see to be an A up here. You could draw it back, and then draw it back to get. Now with A, I'll show you how to do little caveats like that, which is nothing more than hammer on, hammer on, hammer on, hammer on, hammer on the 11th, hammer on the 12th, hammer on the 11th, 12th. When I do a hammer on in the 12th plus hammer on the 12th with the rhythm, just doing back those, I get. So what we can do is we can show you some Les Claypool stuff. You know, all sorts of stuff. So if you pick a band you really enjoy, I can learn whatever the bass player is doing and then show you those notes. But to get your hands and your concepts around those, we just have to know what a C is, a D is, an E is. You're doing a great job. There's no need to really progress any further unless you want to start playing out tomorrow. However, what you got going on is amazing. This week, just try and concentrate on playing the first finger, third finger, first finger, third finger, second finger, fourth finger, second finger, fourth finger. It doesn't matter if you go from C to D to E or C, C flat, C sharp, D, D sharp. It doesn't matter where you do it, as long as you know what the benefit is of doing it in a legato and doing it in a staccato. Legato rings out, staccato cuts it off by taking our finger off the string, but just holding it right on there, touching it and not pressing down. That's a very hard thing to learn. I'm really hoping that we can grasp this one this week because it really tends to move on to the next thing, like harmonics and like chord structures based out of moving tones and using majors and minors to get sus type of sounds, thusly playing the bass more like a guitar and having it be a little bit more full. And as I said, all this comes in its due time. The most important takeaways are that you go slow and that you understand the concept of which we're doing. Other than that, everything we can do can be done faster, and everything can go into way more depth. But then again, as I said, at a certain point of learning the music, all the things that you've learned go out the window when playing with other people, and then you just cherry pick the little things that you learn to make the music you're playing with others sound good. If you're playing your own music and you're writing, then you have only yourself to impress. So long story short, you're doing a wonderful job. I'm really impressed by it. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for coming in on the holiday. Aloha.